Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing great. We're going to talk today about the ECB is launching the first line of bond defense, essentially. You know, it's like bonds, ECB bonds. That's horrible. I'm not even going to try and joke around about James Bond. Guys, we're going to talk about this today. I think this is very important because the ECB is doing all these countermeasures or these emergency meetings and these plans that they're trying to do to prop up their economy right now because it is utterly imploding right now. The euro has been, quite frankly, a failed experiment ever from the start in the early 2000s. But they keep trying to keep it together. Why? It's because that's more power. You see, if all these countries around Europe were separated, they would have more of a say in what goes on, right? Because they'd have their own plans. But when they have a central authority or government, especially the government that controls the money supply, then there's a lot of power there. And sadly, we've seen in the early, 2010 to 2015 era, certain countries be totally just taken advantage of. And if you're in those countries, like Greece, Cyprus, we're now seeing Italy I believe you're going to see Italy default, but quite frankly, Italy is just a basket case right now, but it's not just Italy's fault. Germany was a basket case in 2005 and people completely forget about that. So sorry, I digress. We're going to dive into this story now. So it says, for all those curious what the ECB's anti-spread tool meant to bring soaring inflation yields higher in a time of rising rates in QE, even as Europe scrambles to offset record inflation by tightening financial conditions. It says, we got a small update earlier today when President of the ECB, President Christine Lagarde, said that the central bank will activate one part of the bond purchasing firepower as it's earmarked as a first line of defense against a possible debt market crisis. And that's starting this Friday, all right? So we're seeing what's going on with the ECB and Christine Lagarde, or like what was promised like in 2010, at all costs. We're gonna buy up at all costs. You guys can come on, jump on in, don't worry, just filming. At all costs, they want to prop up the markets, right? So the bond market's already collapsing in Europe, and so what they want to do is purchase as much as they can. Mario Draghi said that, to prop up these markets. And it's very important that people understand how serious this is. And the reason why I say it's serious is because, like we saw with quantitative easing after the Great Recession, it's just a propping up of the system. What does it do? It does add money into the system. But since they're able to control the velocity, they're purchasing, they're just literally printing money, right? And they're purchasing these bonds to try and prop up the system, and then they store them. They hold them in their hands, right? So that money is not moving around. They're able, essentially, to control inflation. Here's the problem. Eventually, that day comes where they want to tighten, they want to not have those bonds or those assets on their balance sheet, and they start to sell them in the market. And that's when things get nutty because the velocity of money picks up. So they're constantly trying to figure out ways to offset that velocity of money. So one way they do it is with swaps. We've seen this in about 5 or 6 years ago, where Europe and the US were doing swap lines. And that was able to keep it at bay a little bit, but I think that they're starting to lose control, and it's going to come to a head because they're also, remember, as they're buying up these assets and they're printing money, right? Fake currency to prop this up. Then what they do is all of a sudden you see the confidence in that currency by other countries goes down, and that gets dangerous. That's that other fine line that people don't talk about, because central banks are constantly trying to keep their currency looking good to other countries for trade. Now it says, and this is a quote from her, "We have decided to apply this flexibility in reinvesting redemptions coming due in the PEPP portfolios as of July," Lagarde said Tuesday in a speech in Sintra, Portugal, where the ECB is holding its annual retreat. She also went on to say, "We will ensure that the orderly transition of our policy stance throughout the euro is preserved." She said, "We will address every obstacle that may pose a threat to our price stability mandate." Now, I want people to understand that, and it's the same with the Federal Reserve or any central bank around the world. When things are going bad, that's when you start to see the feds coming out and talking more and more and more. The heads of these agencies or their governors or their board members coming out and giving more press conferences, because what they're doing is they're trying to ease the stress of what's going on in the people's minds. They're trying to say, hey, we're in a moment where things are going bad. We want things to stabilize, so we want to put you at ease, okay? I want people to understand how important that is. People need to be put at ease, and that's what they do. It's rhetoric. It's to me, kabuki theater. Look at what we're doing over here, but don't look at what we're doing over there. Now, the other thing I want people to understand is these central authorities, what they do too is as they're printing money, they're buying up assets. We saw this with mortgage-backed securities after Lehman Brothers collapsed, with the Federal Reserve buying up mortgage-backed securities, essentially being able to now own the rights to your home if you forfeit. And I think that is very, very important for people to realize. That's why it's very important to be out of debt as much as possible, especially if you're able to pay off your home, to do it. The reason why is because if you were put into a position where your 401k is taken away, or inflation just explodes and you can't afford even your basic necessities like food, electricity, things like that, what happens is they're able to put you into some sort of, let's say, payment plan. And what it does is it ties you down to what you think is your home, but it really isn't. And I believe that there's a plan that you're gonna see in the next 5 or 6 years where everyone's gonna be put into a very hard position to stay where they are, essentially. And they're gonna be given an awesome opportunity and they're gonna run to it. And that is, hey, you can stay where you live, things have gotten bad, and we're going to, and I know I've gotten off topic of the ECB, but I'm gonna bring it right back around. But essentially they're gonna say, hey, we're going to let you stay here at a fraction of what you were paying because we know times are tough, the economy kind of thing. And I want people to understand that it's actually a plan. So as you see the ECB saying, hey, anything it takes, we're gonna monetize this debt, we're gonna buy up these bonds, we're gonna store them, hold them. That's your retirement they're dealing with. That's your homes that you're dealing with, the mortgage-backed securities, things like that. And I think that's very important for people to understand. So today is a day to stop getting into crazy debt, get out of debt. You can come on by, we're just chatting, thank you. And get into a position where you are debt-free as much as possible for this next crash, because this one will be worse than what you see in the Great Recession, anything like that. I'm here in Puerto Rico right now, and inflation has always been an issue with Puerto Rico, especially because of the agreement that was made with America, and that they can't just go buy items from China, Japan. They've got to actually go, China brings them to the US, then they buy them in the US, from the US at a markup, a substantial markup. There's so many issues here, and you see countries that get ravaged by weather events, catastrophes like that, right? But then you add on top of that geopolitical issues because of the way that their treaties are set up, their agreements are set up, and you really start to see the strain it puts on the people of a country. And I don't want that. I want prosperity for everybody. The problem is not everyone's gonna live in prosperous times because they're not thinking globally, they're not thinking more than just their paycheck or their bills, right? You've got to start thinking what are the outside pressures that can come and attack my finances, and then go do something about that, okay? So I think that's very important to understand. I thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate all the new subscribers. And all the people that are sharing these videos and hitting the thumbs up button. You mean so much to me. I cannot be more grateful to you guys. All right, guys, that being said, I thank you so much for watching. The Economic Ninja is out.